Hi, welcome to the Curious Midlife podcast, the show that brings you conversations for the multi-passionate Renaissance woman. I'm here to inspire you to create a new sense of self by daring to be creative in everything you do, and to see the world as a playground to move, explore, discover, and enjoy at any age. I help busy midlife women reclaim and increase their physical strength and confidence. Get your mojo back so you can feel brave and adventurous again and age with grace. I'm your host, Dr. Julie Angel, movement coach, filmmaker, eternal student, author of the book Breaking the Jump, and creator of the MAP system. Stay curious, creative, and strong. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to this episode. And today I'm very happy to have the amazing, wonderful, multi-passionate, really interesting Zora Benhamou with me. So welcome, Zora. Tell us, who are you? What do you do? What's your story? What is life like right now?
Hey, Julie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of this podcast. And I am a gerontologist. That's probably the short answer. And we'll go into that, what that means later. I'm also the host of the Hack My Age podcast. And that's a podcast for biohacking over 50 for women. So I focus on older women and biohacks. And I'm also a nomad. So that means I don't have a home. I live out of a suitcase. I'm a minimalist. And I also am a certified sports nutrition coach, healthy aging coach, and what else? A breathing coach. I've gone through the Oxygen Advantage, advanced breathwork instructor. And I've also gone through the Dr. Stacy Sims Menopause for Athletes program. So I have an interest in older women and biohacking and living a long, healthy life.
I love it. And there's so many, so many things there that are dear to my heart in terms of positive aging, in terms of living a life on your terms. And minimalism isn't for everyone, I know, but I'm a fellow minimalist and I've never felt so happy in terms of the less things I have, the happier I feel. And I put my resources into kind of experiences and travel and health and wellness and this constant kind of education of life, really, of living life better. And that's a lot of the work that you do. So what can you tell us, what is a gerontologist?
A gerontologist is somebody who studies aging, but not only from a biological perspective, but from a sociological and a psychological perspective. So we look at the whole life course from birth to death. So a lot of people think, oh, gerontology, geriatric doctors, geriatrics, and they think, oh, you just look at older people. And we do focus a lot on older adults, but we try to understand how people are aging based on the whole life course and their experiences, such as in childhood trauma, and how does that contribute to aging slower or faster, and trauma and disease, and why do we get disease, and what are the risk factors, and there's so much to unwrap there. But I love that it's not just diet and exercise, right? That's a lot of people think, oh, I know how to live well. It's just diet and exercise. And it's so much more than that. And if it were just that, then everybody would be, living longer with just that simple recipe, or be able to stick with a diet, no problem, or be able to stick with an exercise routine, no problem. But there are reasons why we don't. And so we look at that and we think, well, how can we motivate people to be preventive in preventive care, and how we can help them live a longer, healthier life, and make the world a better place.
And what brought you into this area of study? Like what pulled you in? What was your interest that brought you to that?
Well, I've always been into health and wellness. I'm from LA, right? I grew up in LA, not far from you right now. And everybody's on the health track and want to look good in a bikini. And so I grew up like that. And then when I was 23, my mom died of breast cancer and she was only 57. And so I was like, okay, I really want to study health because not only to look good in a bikini, but I just don't want to die early of cancer. So I was just gobbling up information on how to lower my risk of breast cancer. And then it just kind of evolved. And when you do that, you become the go-to health person and all your friends are asking you how to be healthy. And I'm like, okay, why don't I just get a certification or a degree or something in nutrition and sports and all that stuff. So that's kind of led me down that field. And then when internet came up, I just thought, well, it would be great to help more people. You can go online, you can help more people, touch more people. And then when the whole biohacking community started to grow, and I found out about biohacking, and I'll explain what that is later, I thought, okay, this is really great because it takes sort of a lot of ancestral wisdom and connects it with the latest science. And I think that's a great way to age well, to use some of these techniques to have a better life and for prevention. So that's how I got into the biohacking community and eventually into podcasting and helping more people that way. Because with a podcast, as you know, people learn. And I love to interview researchers and doctors and just normal everyday people who can give us a little glimpse on aging and longevity.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm new to this podcast world, but what I've always loved, and I think this comes from the my documentary background, is conversations and people. And there are now so many more conversations that we can be privy to and that we can share. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast. It's like, I know so many cool women, I know so many interesting people, and I don't want to be like, maybe other people can enjoy those conversations as well. So like, come and tune in and listen in, and to not be the gatekeeper
Yeah.
of things, to really share that.
And we need more people like you. We need more women out there and older women advocating for, I don't want to, a lot of people don't like that word older adults, but that's what we use in gerontology. And but that's the reality is we have very different needs and desires than a younger person as we age. And so and one thing I didn't mention, I mean, how I got into gerontology was because I found a program online at USC, University of Southern California. It's a big university where they taught gerontology, and I mean, actually, it wasn't gerontology. I was interested. It was health span, longevity, and aging. And I was like, okay, this master's has my name written all over it. So I was looking into that program. That's where Dr. Walter Longo is teaching as well as a professor. And I was following his work, and I thought, oh wow, it'd be great to be one of his students and to learn from these brilliant minds. When I went into the program, or when I went to look into the program, I found out everybody wanted to be a registered dietitian, and you had to do a certain number of hours. I think I had to stay in the US like 6 months to do some hours. And I was like, I can't do that as a nomad. Like and I'm not interested in becoming a registered dietitian. I already consult people with their nutrition, and I that was one of the last things I wanted to do. So that's when USC, the directors there, and I explained to them my mission, what I want to do, what I'm interested in. They said, the Masters of Gerontology is for you. And I, just like everyone else, I was like, I don't want to study old people. Like, I don't even like old people. Like, what? I don't want to do that. And that's when they explained to me what it was. And then I thought, oh, this is very interesting. And that's how I got into gerontology. And actually, it was perfect timing because COVID hit right when I started my program. So I made really good use of that home time. So, and I recently graduated, and I'm just thrilled with everything I've learned. And gerontology is, people more going to hear more and more about that word. It doesn't sound very sexy now, but it will be very soon.
Definitely. And congratulations on the masters. That's fantastic. And yeah, definitely, COVID was definitely an opportunity for some good learning online, kind of access time. And as you say, yeah, the word geriatric or gerontology doesn't bring up positive connotations for people. And even the word old, like when you say, as older people, like even for me, like I don't consider myself old. I'm technically, I'm 52 years old, so technically I'm if we go to the meter rule of life, and the women on my mum's side of the family do have longevity with them. So I had a great aunt who was 100. My grandmother was 98. My mum is she'll be 81 very soon, and she's like 60, kind of living like a six.
Wow.
So there's something good on that side, but on the other side of the family, it's we're like they were a bit wild and didn't live quite so long. So who knows what my mix and how my life will play out. But yeah, how we use these words and terminology and how we think about aging is changing all the time. What shifts have you become more aware of, or what are you seeing in the landscape right now around aging and vocabulary and the connotations tied to that?
Mm. Well, nobody likes this word old or elderly or seniors, and because we're all ageist, unfortunately. If you were to take a test, even if you think you're pretty open minded, and you'll probably find you're ageist. And so, what I'm trying to do is disrupt those ageist stereotypes. I mean, they're there, right? There are older adults who are uh, sick and hunched over and walking slowly and have no strength and are frail. But there are plenty of older adults who are not. But we don't look at that when we think of old, and we look at a birthday card, I think from the time you hit 40, they're all negative, like you're over the hill, and they show older fat people with gray hair and glasses, and you're like, that's not the way I'm going to age. That's not, I don't plan on aging like that. And that's fine. There are plenty of people like that. But if that's the only thing we're looking at in social media or in the news or on TV or in birthday cards, then, we're going to continue with this ageist stereotype. So I think we'll see a shift eventually with this. And my mission is to show more of those healthy older adults who are rocking it, who are doing marathons, who are uh, having new jobs starting at the age of 70, or just learning how to lift weights when they're 80. I mean, there's so many examples out there. We just need to see them more and more. And so I really want to disrupt that. I hope that's going to take a shift. It's going to take a while, because a lot of these things start from the age of about 6, when we start to have these ageist stereotypes, because we're looking at our parents and how they're treating their parents, or the grandparents, how they're treating older adults. And then we kind of recognize this in ourselves eventually when we get older. Like maybe we're walking a little bit slower, don't have as much strength, we're a bit tired, and we go, oh, this is getting old, oh, I must be aging, oh. And then we accept this, we embody this, and then we replicate this and reinforce it into society. There's a model, the AIR model, and that's just, it's acquisition and internalization, and then reinforcement. So that's this whole psychology model that needs to be disrupted, and we can disrupt them by having more of these people in our front of our eyes. And you're doing it, I'm doing it, and we're going to be showing more and more people who are. So that's something I need to see a shift.
That's definitely what I'm in complete agreement with. And the whole premise of the See and Do project is, we have to see it to be it. And it helps to see it to be it, to be those disruptors and to show the things that are there but are not getting the attention, that are not, in our view, they're not being framed yet. They're happening, because otherwise we do get this very disproportionate perspective on possibility, and especially around aging. Tell me about biohacking, because I know some people, for them, it's a negative trigger. For some people, it's a positive trigger. And some people don't really know what it is either. So, introduce biohacking. What is biohacking for you?
So most people I know don't know what biohacking is at all. So I look at it as it refers to a group of people who are generally healthy, right? And healthy for us in biohacking world means sick, because it just refers to the average, say, American or the average person in the population. And the average person has got already some kind of diseases and some health issues and all that. So we're looking to optimize our health. And when you use the word hack, it sounds like you're looking for a shortcut and a trick. And yes, there are shortcuts and tricks and supplements and things and we can add, but a true biohacker will really look at the ancestral wisdom and connect it with the science. And that means you need a foundation of the stuff that we know is good for us in terms of good nutrition and getting your exercise in and managing your stress and sleep and having good relationships and community. Now, that's the base. I look at it as a triangle. So imagine that's the base. And then the middle of the triangle would be something like supplements or something that, you kind of add on to it that you don't need really a doctor's prescription for or any help. And then the very top tier of the pyramid is things like PRP injections or stem cells, and you need a doctor for that. And that's sort of the tip. So you can't just cut to the tip and expect all the magic to happen. You really need that foundation for those supplements and those tricks and those hacks. They're amazing and they work and they sound like miracles, but they'll only work or work better if you have that foundation. If you don't have the foundation, it's not going to work, or it's going to be very, very little effect. So I think that's why some people may have a negative connotation to it, or you have these sort of Silicon Valley CEOs and these people who are trying to, take some sort of energy boost and hack their sleep and just still get 3 hours of sleep and, do what they need to do and still be energized and turned on. But there is a price to pay for that in the end. You may be able to get away with it for a while, but your health will not will suffer. So, we want to find that happy medium where we have that great foundation, and then we can add those little hacks on top of it to really get us to the next level. Because I've worked with women in health coaching, and they're just doing everything right. You're like, my gosh, you're you're eating well and you're exercising. Like, what else can we do to help you? And that's where you got to get to the next level. So I think that's what biohacking is. And biohacking is also an N of one experiment. We look at the science, we look at the data, we look at research, and we think, okay, maybe it'll work with me, maybe not. I don't know. And the only person that matters is me or you or the N of one. So we need to track. We need to wear these devices to know where is the data, where are we going. I mean, it's ultimately be great just to dial into your own body and see and know how you feel, and that's what we use that as well. But biohackers very often like to track and assess a certain protocol, not just go, I'll take vitamin C and then see what happens, and then you forget, is it working? I don't know. We write everything down. You can take it with piece of paper and pen. It doesn't have to be some super expensive gadget. It's just little gadgets are kind of fun, little toys, and we like to use them just to see where are we going. A continuous blood glucose monitor, for example, is so fabulous. It's not that expensive. You slap this on the back of your arm, and it tests your blood sugar levels, and we can see how do we react to that bowl of rice. Or some people have very high spikes in their blood sugars, and some people not very much. Or we can hack it by mixing your rice with a bit of fat or a bit of protein, and you won't have such a big spike. You say, oh, I love my rice, but you can hack it. So that's the little hack that comes in. You shouldn't be eating bowls of rice and that's it. But if you really enjoy it, well, let's figure out how we can do that. And that's the N of one experiment. I never tell people, if people ask me, oh, is rice good or bad? Should I eat or not eat it? I'm like, I don't know. Like, you got to test it. Like, I can't give broad statements anymore. We are individualizing our treatments and our protocols. So that's what a biohacker does, is figure out how that's working out for themselves. And we do look at things, just may work, may not, and that's okay. So as we do all these crazy experiments, but that's the only way we're going to find out if something works for us or not.
I love that. And I always say to people that for me, aging is just an opportunity for more research. Like it's a constant opportunity because we have time to then see, well, what works and what doesn't work. Do I want to go down this path or that path? How do I maximize this and how do I minimize that? So the fact that there is now this really, I feel we're in a really exciting time of this mix of old and new. So as you were saying, like referring back to these ancestral kind of wisdom. So I have a few friends who are Tai Chi practitioners and Chinese medicine practitioners, and they're all about the Taoists, and they're also now about the neuroscience. And they were like, well, the Taoists have been saying this for thousands of years, and so there's this validation and this exploration, and also this encouragement, which I think is really positive, of the bio individual. Of like, let's stop being body snatchers and say, well, because they did that, then you should do that. There's this big like, well, maybe depends as a kind of add-on. So as you say, we can't make these broad statements, yet at the same time there are some fundamentals of, well, this is what works for most people most of the time, and a lot of people don't have that bedrock of health, and they
Mhm.
have this. I also find I find it very sad when I meet people of a similar age or a little bit older, or and even sadder when they're much younger, who have accepted a very poor baseline for their health. And there is a kind of idea also that there is so much tech and so much knowledge out there that they can just kind of, I don't know, like supplement their way out of it, or that they can just do that thing. And it's like, it's not, I don't think that's going to go well. And I don't think it's really going to get to the root cause of it. So, what is really exciting for you right now around all the research that you're diving into? Like, where is your attention going at the moment?
My attention is really going into uh, studies done on women, because a lot of most studies that we know of ever since the beginning of time have been done on men, and or male mice, or it's not applicable always to women. And what we're finding out with the very little research that is now being done on women, because it was only recently, I think it was 1995 or 98, that it became a mandate that we include women in research. And even today, still, women will be included, but the data will not always be included, which is a real bummer. So there's still a lot of progress that needs to be done, and it's because women are quote unquote complicated, and they mess up the studies because we have hormones and periods and pregnancy and menopause, and scientists don't want to deal with that. It's very expensive to do research, and so they don't have the time or the patience to do it. So we need to get over this, because 50% of the population are women. So why are we only focusing on half of us? And what's coming out now in the research, when we do look at women, that we are having very different outcomes than men. Not always, but very often can be, in terms of, you'll get, for an example, the ketogenic diet was done originally for epilepsy, right? And in most of the research is done on obese, sedentary men. So, fantastic outcomes, great, for these men. But when you get to a woman and we have these hormones and our cycles, we need carbs, right? The ketogenic diet is 70% fat, and about 20, 30%, 20% protein. So it's moderate protein and very low carb. So when you put a woman on this diet, they don't seem to have the same outcomes. Of course, there will always be exceptions and women who are doing great on it. But very often, especially with my clients in health coaching, it's just classic. The men would just lose so much weight so fast and build their muscle and do great. And the females were just struggling with it. And sometimes they got there, but they were just like craving their carbs, or they were really missing their vegetables and fruit. So, I was thinking, I always warn them. I was like, I don't, you can try it, but I really don't. I'm not a big advocate of it, and I wouldn't do it more for than a couple of weeks. Uh, and every time the outcome was not that great. And now we have some of the research coming out showing that why it's not working so well for women. So, and what happens? So, when we get this research, we all go gung ho on it. People write books about it. It's the new health trend. And it trickles down into the real world, and then we realize it's not working for everybody. So that's what I'm really into now, is finding out more about women, especially older women. And we just don't. So we all have a lot of research on women, but forget about older women. Like, that's just, there's like really very little. So, but it's going to change because the population is aging. We have the baby boomers coming up right now. So we've got this huge population of older adults who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s right now, and they need help and they need studies. So I'm really trying to advocate more for that, and look for more research to be able to help the people who listen to my podcast, to people who I coach, to people, for myself. And that's what I really am interested at the moment.
And I think also to add to, I mean, I'm like nodding my head and waving my arms furiously, like at the same time, just like, yes, yes. Because I think there's also more female researchers who are curious
Yes.
and who are now aware of, well, there is this knowledge gap. This is lacking. And I started to think the other day, I was listening to your podcast. I was listening to Cara Fitzgerald and the Younger You, and I listened to her book. And she says, we've only done this one test, and none of it was done on middle-aged women. She said, because for all those reasons, like, it's too variable. So that we want to do that for the next stage. And I was thinking, imagine if there was a label on every medicine in the pharmacy, not tested on women. Like, not researched on women.
It's true. It would be absolutely true. And I think that's the transparency we need.
What a game changer.
At your own risk.
Yeah, exactly. At your
maybe it'll work, maybe not.
Yeah, and if you had the traffic light system, so it could be, the red is like never tested on women, only tested on, and I appreciate you can't have a study, then maybe it's enough to test on mice, or but then are there even female mice? But to know the female of the species has not been involved historically, then would we be a little bit more cautious? And would we therefore also advocate for more autonomy? And I mean, I'm always a big advocate of, like, go and do your research. And we are our own laboratory. Like, I am guinea pig number one in my world. Everything I share with my clients, I've gone through, I've tried, I've done, and some for the good, some for the bad. I tried the paleo thing, I tried the this thing, I've done the intensity thing, I've done that. And all I can say is, well, this worked for me, and why, and this didn't work for me, and why not? And it comes back to depends, and don't be a body snatcher. You're bio individual, your story, it's for you. But this glaring lack of research done on women is just a kind of I feel it's like an ethical scandal that
I agree.
this has been handed out without a duty of care, without the knowledge of how this may manifest for you. And what is the most batshit crazy thing is there's medicine or prescriptions for women's conditions that weren't tested on women. And that's like, are you making this shit up? Are you making this up? Really?
Yeah.
Like, how?
Yeah.
And I imagine, like, at some point, it's like if I watch a really bad film or a bad TV show, and coming from it, and I always joke with my friend, like, wow, I wonder how many times a group of people sat around a table and they watched that and they went, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, great. Like, green light. Should we give it that money? Yeah, green light. Best script. Great. Okay, we watched the rushes from the first shoot. Oh, do you think this is going to be great? Yeah, it's great. Green light. Well, okay, let's see the first edit. Oh, what do you think? Yeah, green light. So there's been so many meetings and so many green lights. And at every part of that process, everyone has said, like, we're only testing on men. Yep, awesome, green light. We're only testing up. No women in the study? Green light. Keep on. And it's like, can we just talk about that for a minute? Because that's really weird.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
reveals something.
I think it's been accepted for so long. And it's only recently that some people are speaking up and saying, you know what, this isn't right. And even Dr. Stacy Sims, who's a exercise physiologist and a researcher, and she's a doctor, and she herself said when she was in college studying, she would be a participant in the studies, and then they just said, you know what, we're not going to really use your data. And she's like, well, why? And they're like, oh, it's just, it's not going to be relevant. And she said, well, why aren't, you study women? I mean, you need our data. And they're like, we haven't figured men out yet. So, let's figure that out first. And she's, because women are an anomaly. And she was like, I think at the time women were, we're 51% of the population. So she's like, well, aren't men the anomaly then? Like, because there are more of us. And that just, it blew her mind as a student and just starting out. So I'm grateful for people like her who are speaking out and just saying this is wrong. This is we need more women's studies. And yeah, I think there's just still a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's what I hope to help out with, or whatever, just be an advocate for that and let people know, because I was really shocked the first time I heard that. And it was from Dr. Bernice Benayoun, who's a researcher at USC. And I was listening to one of her talks, and she has a lab at USC, and that her whole shtick is sex differences. And she studies, men versus women, male rodents versus female rodents. And she actually said that it's not that difficult to have women in the study. And so I never got the full report on why or how. I need to reach out to her and get her on a podcast, because that was, again, another shocker. Like, well, if it's not that difficult, then why are we not doing it? So I just hope that people listening now are aware of that. The drugs, the medicine, the things that we take, supplements, they're all made for a man. I mean, we know they work great for men. Women, maybe, I don't know. So just like that, and once you become aware of that, and then you become your own advocate and speak up for this, and anywhere you can, just let people know, and let's rally for more women in research.
100%. And I think I became really aware of it through Dr. Lisa Mosconi's work with brain food and what was the last one? The XX. I'll put it in the show notes. But
Yeah.
she has a whole chapter kind of at the beginning of the book, which goes into that, and it's just like, wow. And we know from our own experiences, and we know even a lot of the male coaches I know in the health sphere who now just work with female metabolism and hormones, because they realize this community has been so grossly underserved. And for strength and conditioning coaches who, you can't train, I mean, you can, but it would be irresponsible and uninformed to train a 50-year-old woman in the same way you would a 30-year-old guy, or even a 30-year-old or a 50-year-old man. It's very different what's happening. So I really celebrate all the avenues that are shining a light on this and being a part of this positive change. And your work, I know, does that as well. So tell me, like, what are you doing at the moment? Because you get given all the gadgets, or not all the gadgets, but I see on your social media, you're like, oh, this is a review of this, and this is a test of that. So what have you been playing with recently?
Oh, my favorite gadget I've been playing around recently is Newcom. And I haven't even done the podcast yet. Newcom is an app that you use for stress management, kind of a thing. And if someone biohacking besties were saying, you've got to look into this. This is a game changer. And I was like, okay. So I played around with it. And actually, I still have the sticker on me because I did it today too. You have this little sticker that you put on the sixth acupressure point, and it's embedded with a frequency. And so, what this does is it sends, as you're listening to neuroacoustics, so it's just sounds and music, but it's a special program to be able to get you into a state of mind of a deep meditation. And so it's all trying to get those brain waves into that section. And so it plays around with that, and it helps you release GABA, which is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel calm and relaxed, and as well as serotonin and some other, great neurotransmitters. So what you do is the minimum time is a 20-minute program, and then you can go on for an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, and you just lie down and you listen to this stuff. And what I found was amazing is that I meditate every day, even from 5 minutes till 20 minutes. It's never really that long, but I do it every day. Just it's a habit, and I just feel it's part of my life. And so, but it's not easy. Your mind trails off. My mind still does. I'm not an expert meditator or anything. I just reel it back in. That's all I do is reel it back in. I'm a breathwork instructor, so I just focus on the breath again. It's just constant back and forth, back and forth. But with this new calm, you lose, first of all sense of time. So you have no idea. I can guess at maybe 5 or 10 minutes, monkey brain. And then suddenly I just get really heavy and I go into this deep um, space where I feel I'm conscious. I don't think I'm falling asleep. And every time, I think maybe my brain is going to go away, it just reels it back in for me. It's the most bizarre thing. I used it all throughout when I had COVID, and I was like, great, this is a perfect time. I have time now. And I absolutely loved it. And I thought I'd really call it meditation made easy, because you don't have to fight. You don't have to try to reel things. It just seems to happen. And then you get all this energy when you come out of it. However, that didn't happen to me. And I tested it out with a bunch of people, because before I do the podcast, I want to research, I want to see if this is something for me. And does it work? Just because it worked for me, does it work for everybody else? And I got the same feedback. And the feedback is like, and I wrote to them. I said, I'm really tired after this. Like, I don't know where that energy is. I don't know what I'm going to, I don't know, do this podcast because I got no energy. And what they were saying is because you need more. Your brain needs to be in this state for a little bit longer. So do a longer session, or usually it takes about 4 or 5 days in a row. And you're going to see it's not going to be so difficult to come out of it. Because I felt so deeply, I was like, I just did not want to wake up. I just want to get out of bed. I just wanted to stay there. And that's kind of what happened with a lot of other people as well. And so I get it now. And so I'm really into that. I haven't done the podcast yet, but it sounds like one big promo for them, but it's something I really believe in. The only thing is it's kind of expensive. I think it's about $50 a month. And you get these little stickers, and you go, and that's for the general program. Then they have an upgrade for like 150. And you're like, so one friend of mine said, you know what, it's cheaper than my therapist, so I'm just going to get it, because she loved it and she felt that it helped a lot. And this is somebody who has PTSD, childhood trauma, sexually molested as a child, panic disorders, like a total mess. And so I have to say it is kind of expensive, but again, it depends on people. Is it worth it for you? Not. And my question is, this is what I'm going to do for the podcast as well. I'm going to ask them, how much is it the neuroacoustics? How much is it this stupid sticker? You're like, wow, it's hard to believe, But I did test it today for the first. I was several weeks, I know it was a month without the stickers because I just ran out, and then I tested. And I was like, I still feel really good. But then when I went back on it today, I was like, oh, no, there's something, I feel something different. I don't know. And I can't pinpoint what it is. So there's something on the sticker, but it's hard. I'm going to ask them. I don't understand the science. I don't understand how this sticker can work. It sounds like, I don't know. So I'm going to ask them that. And then how much is it? Just the fact that I decided to lay down for 30 minutes. Maybe if I just laid down for 30 minutes, and listen to whatever, I'll have this same benefit, same effect. I haven't really tested it that way, but that's my big question. Of course, he's going to say it's going to be, a huge percentage and whatever, but really, I'd have to ask somebody who's not biased to see how true that is. But I would say, if this is something you want to try and people are excited about it, I think part of it is when you pay for something, you're more likely to do it. Right? You get a personal trainer, you're more likely to go to the gym. And if this is going to make you sit down for 30 minutes and do it, well, then do it. And if you're just like, it's not in my budget, I can't, then, just lay down for 20, 30 minutes and try to meditate and use Headspace or some other free app and all that. The only thing is some people say, I do neuroacoustics and binaural beats and everything on YouTube, but I've also heard people say, be careful of that because you're reprogramming your brain. I mean, these wavelengths that are there, and some people they're just slapping. It's like a supplement, I slap two things together. Maybe it'll work, but maybe it'll be really harmful. So I wouldn't go mess around too much with that. So, but if you know somebody and you trust something, and obviously you give it a go. But that's what I'm into now. I'm quite excited about it, and because it's just so easy to meditate with this thing.
I mean, it's interesting. I don't meditate. I daydream and I take naps. And so whether and sometimes I sleep, sometimes I don't sleep, but I just lie down for 20 to 30 minutes in the early afternoon. But I'm very keen on the work Dr. Ellen Langer did years ago around. So her whole premise was to be mindful means you notice things. So she said, if you enjoy meditation, meditate. But being mindful, this practice of mindfulness is to notice things.
Mm-hmm.
And she did all of the retro aging research where she retrofitted a farmhouse and had a group of, again, men. I think there was 40 men in their early 80s of different cognitive and physical capacities. And what was interesting as well is they had no mirrors and they only had pictures of the younger version of themselves, and they retrofitted everything to 40 years younger.
Oh, wow.
And they did every single biomarker test that existed at the time. She created a whole bunch of new ones. And actually, her research assistant, Alia Crum, is at Harvard now, and she's doing some really, really interesting mind-body connection research. So she's did recently the milkshake test, which was when you had a control group and you were told, like, this group, this milkshake, this is like the most nutrient dense, powerful, this is going to do this for your body, it's going to be amazing, amazing, amazing. And then a few weeks later, we've got another milkshake for you. This milkshake, it's really calorie dense, it's fattening, it's going to be this, da 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 da. Of course, same milkshake. One milkshake, they lost weight. Second milkshake, they put on weight.
Amazing.
Same milkshake. So she's really looking into the application of nutrient absorption and mindset and using that for side effects for medicines for children.
Wow.
As an application of that. So, and she was an athlete as well. So she did some, her work with Ellen Langer was really interesting as well. They did the housekeeper study where a group of housekeepers, and they were like, oh no, I don't exercise, I'm da, 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 da. And they were told, oh, when you go down and you pick up the sheets and then you put them on the shelf, well, this is like a squat and this is a push press. And
yeah.
da, da, da.
I heard of that study. We covered that study in our gerontology class. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. And so that I'm always interested in this mind body connection. So yeah, I don't meditate. I know people who do, and I think if you enjoy it, but also I'm just a big fan of, I think we all need to spend more time down regulating our nervous system and to being calm. And if there's something that, like you say, if it takes paying somebody, a company, $50 a month to make you lie down for half an hour every day, that's a great service to your health, especially if you're, because I don't know many people who are just,
disciplined
living,
enough to do it. Yeah.
Or their life is so pura vida that they're just tranquilo all the time. And, or maybe, when you're in a very hot place, like you do take a siesta, you do,
Mm-hmm.
you get up with the birds and you're active early in the day when the air is cool, but these are climatic environmental factors which are really different to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm always kind of scared of all the app things,
Oh,
especially the brain things. I'm like, oh, don't mess with my head, it's fine,
yeah. Well,
I'll
you
take a
got it
nap.
down. Like you're just like you said, you're down regulating. That the most important thing is that you're giving your brain a break because when we go all day long. We don't stop. It's imagine like doing sit-ups all day long. You know how bad your abs would hurt? You'd be like, I need to sit down. And that's what your brain is doing. That's why I like to, think about meditation or taking a break or taking a nap or down regulating. It's just letting your brain stop for a second and just be. And like you said, mindfulness, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, or taking a nap, or just, stop. And I think closing your eyes is a big one because that blocks out. I don't remember what the percentage was. I want to say something high, like 80% of the information that goes in your brain. It's really important that you keep the eyes closed because that's your brain is processing information, just keeping the eyes open. So really take that moment, whether it's with an app or just by yourself, is key. The brain, especially women, we get dementia and Alzheimer's at a faster rate and more often than men. So, there's something we need more than the guys in terms of our brain health. But the mind body connection, I'm absolutely there with you. It was a whole coursework in gerontology. And I loved it when I saw that it was on the coursework and in our classes. I said, I'm signing up for that one. I mean, the USC is a research based university. And I go, this is okay. This is not woo woo. In the back of your head, you kind of go, I wonder if this is woo woo stuff. But no, there's clear science behind it. And the whole reason why they shared the mind body connection with us is because we know that stress and increases in cortisol, and so it's not the stress, but it's our perception of stress and how we process it, that's increasing our cortisol, and the cortisol's increase, and we're having this inflammation in the body. When you have this inflammation, then you are more at risk for diseases. So, we need, and actually there's also the vice versa as well. The not only the thoughts in your head can make us sick, but if you're having high some disease or virus or something, and actually can go to the brain as well. So we need to be aware of this. It's not woo woo. It is very, very connected, and we need to pay attention to our stress. And after I've had 100 podcasts today. So after all my podcasting, whenever I get a researcher or doctor talking about peptides or something, like whatever disease product or things that they're selling, and I go, well, what is this, what is the biggest contributor to people's illness or whatever, and what can we do about it? So often they say it's stress. No matter how many great supplements or peptides or the diet you have, the exercise you do, you could be on the treadmill all day long eating broccoli, and if the stress is too high for too long and we're not managing it, you will still have atherosclerosis buildup. You can still be at risk of disease. You still have such inflammation, and we gotta, you can't win. It's just too powerful. So please, that's one of the biggest things I need to also advocate for people, especially women, is to manage that stress. I mean, we're not going to get away from the stress. It's going to be there. We just need to know how to change your perception of it, become friends with it, and learn how to manage it so that we don't put ourselves at risk. We lower that risk of all these diseases, and you'll be happier too.
Oh, definitely. And I love the work of Dr. Hans Saley and his book, The Stress of Life. And he really kind of introduced this world of stress as something to be studied because it was kind of an anomaly, I think, for a long time. And this idea that can you meet the demands that are being placed on you? And it's again, it just goes back to the same thing of bio individual. So I know a friend who really enjoys jumping out of airplanes, and I know another friend or myself, like that would give me huge anxiety. Like that would be there would be stresses on my body, but overall that would be a very negative outcome way of doing things. And yet for that person, it's like this is a stress on my body, but it has a positive stress
Yeah.
net outcome. on me. But also that same person on the day where maybe they're dehydrated or they're underfed or they're, and I see it everywhere. Like it's the over caffeinated and the underslept. And it's just like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
such a, a population on the edge.
Yeah, and sleep is really. I wrote a book called The Longevity Master Plan. And it's an online book, and it has about 5 plus 1 pillars of aging, and I made my first pillar sleep, and the second one is stress, and I like to start with sleep because that was at the time really helping my clients. But stress and sleep go hand in hand. You can't get good sleep if you're stressed out, so you kind of need to work on those two at the same time. And at the time, the women who were coming to me were women who were wanting to lose weight, and I was like, your diet and your exercise looks good, I mean, unless you're lying, but there's got to be something else then. And then once I got them to sleep, managing their stress, then the cortisol would lower and it would just burn the fat without doing a whole lot more. And actually, I was cutting out their exercise. I was like, you're doing chronic cardio, like it's way too much cortisol. And it's do more yoga, do more walks in nature. Let's do whatever we can to lower that. I know you like to run or do your HIIT class, but just keep it once or twice a week and try to get, more of the other stuff until you're like healed. And it was amazing to see how the body fat would go down just by that. I mean, and they were scared. They wouldn't believe me. They were like, I don't know if it's already bad enough. But it was like the more they exercised, the fatter they would get. I was like,
Oh, I see it all the time.
there's something wrong.
I see it all the time. In the midlife population of women, I see it all the time. They overtrain, undereat, and then go, I can't understand why I've put on 15 or 20 pounds. How can I shake it? And I was like, because you're in a state of chronic stress.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, exercise is a stressor, undereating is a stressor.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, and for me, I think a lot of us kind of sing from the same hymn book with just a different vocabulary around it. So I talk about strong resting as this art of recovery and repair and to meet yourself where you're at. And I know, Stacey Sims doesn't use that language. She uses, I mean, she's a research scientist, so she talks more in the biochemistry of it. But everything I've read, I'm like, yeah, that's strong resting. That's strong resting. That's strong resting. That's exactly. And so a lot of my clients are always like, wow, like I do less and eat more, and now I'm stronger and happier. Wow. Oh, and my stomach's leaned out. Huh, weird. I was like, no, not really.
I love the word strong resting because it's people like me. I'm an overtrainer and I'm always working on that and trying to listen more to my body and saying, okay, give myself a rest. And so, my rest is always active rest. I got to do yoga. I got to go for a walk. And, and because you feel like, it's just, but when you say strong and you add the word strong to rest, it really gives it a different connotation. So you're like, okay, this is going to make me stronger if I just stop for a moment. And yeah, and so thank you for doing that, and that really helps psychologically for people like me.
Oh no, and it was intentional. I had some parkour friends, and she was just like, "Oh no, but I hate resting. I hate resting." I was like, "Well, that's only because you're not strong resting." And and then out of that conversation, it was just like, and then my friend Jared and I are like, and we're both like very chill. Like I'm a slacker. I'm not that hectic hyper person who is like, oh, I've got to be training. Okay, I have time to do so. I'm just like, nah. Like I will spend a lot of time in the hammock. I spend a lot of time walking with my dog. The
But you like to play,
I play.
right?
I play. So there's never really, I mean, there's times when, I pick up heavy kettlebells and I do stuff like that, but it's 90% play out of my kind of physical activity, and then a lot of strong resting. And some days someone will say like, oh, Jules, what are you doing? And I'm just like, oh, I'm strong resting so hard right now. Like, and then do you want to go and do something? I'm like, no, I'm not outsiding. I'm strong resting. I'm going to be strong resting for the next couple of days. Or, you come back from a road trip or a camping trip and it's like, oh no, I'm just strong resting right now. Yeah, strong resting is just giving yourself a pass, granting yourself the compassion to recuperate, to rebuild, to fill the cup, to not drive on empty, to be in that sweet spot and to be content to be there. And then when you're there, you can also you become a better listener of what do I need, how much do I need, when do I need it, and how frequently do I need it. And again, this aging is just research and knowledge. Just know thyself, know yourself better. With all your research, both personal and with your clients, what are the recommendations in general for women who are over 50 who want to feel happier, stronger, and be more positive in their aging and feel good about their future? Because it's very confusing out there. And whilst the research is amazing and evolving, it can also be very overwhelming. So what has worked for you and what works for the majority of your clients?
Wow, it's such a big bag to fill to be happier and stronger and more positive, and there's so many ways that we can do it, and so many things that can work for some and not for others. So it's really hard because I think for some people it may be about their mental health and well-being, about seeing the bright side of things, to aging, to have strong relationships and good bonds with people. For others it may be a hormonal thing. You may go, I can't be happy next to the people because my hormones are going crazy. We're talking about the menopausal transition. And, when you're getting to perimenopause, so often people will go to the doctor and the doctor puts them in antidepressants or something, when in fact they just need to look at their hormones. I advocate for all women, no matter what age you are, from the moment you get your period, start looking at your hormones. Know yourself, know your hormones, know your cycle, understand the different phases. Women who are going through menopause understand that some days your hormones are up, sometimes they're down, and we want to keep them balanced. I know it's kind of some people don't like that term, but I always recommend people get your hormones tested. Okay, it's kind of a moving target. It may not be perfect, but there are different tests that we can do. Get to know yourself, and once you decide how you can to manage them, either naturally or through bioidenticals, you will feel so much better. And once you feel better, you're sleeping better. And once you get good sleep, you have more energy. When you have more energy, you can go lift heavy things in the gym. You can build muscle mass. You're not so frail anymore. And, it's just life gets better and better. You feel stronger. Hormones are a big one, in the sense that I would say you can start there in case you're wondering. Other people, it's about managing their blood sugar levels. As we get older, we become more insulin resistant, and that means we just can't seem to eat as much sugar or things that will cause the blood sugar to rise and fall, including stress. I mean, if you wear one of those continuous blood glucose monitors, you'll see you go, I haven't eaten a thing all day, and I go and exercise and my blood sugar goes up. Or I haven't eaten anything in the last 4 hours, and then I had this horrible fight with so and so, and then you see your blood sugar goes up. So it's not only for seeing the foods that work and don't work for you, but I would say looking at your blood sugar levels and managing that well, and that affects your hormones as well. But it's this bidirectional thing. But I really think knowing yourself, knowing what you want in life, which is not so easy. Sometimes we need time to figure that out, especially if you are an empty nester and your kids have left and your purpose in life was taking care of the kids. You need to find a new purpose. And so having that purpose in life is super important too. So it's really hard to answer with just one thing. I just kind of throw a few things out there for somebody to go, yeah, I think that sounds like me. I'm going to start there.
I love that. And actually, and thank you. If you have a few more moments as well, I would also love to just touch more on this minimalist nomadic lifestyle that you're doing. And when did
Yeah.
that start? And what does that involve? Like I kind of know what it is, but for some of our listeners, they may say like, oh, I hear about these digital nomads and I just thought that was, Instagram influencers or something. So if you're happy to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah, when you think of a nomad or digital nomad, you kind of think of hippie backpackers, when they're in their 20s, and you just kind of travel the world and you go discover, because that's kind of what we're doing. But It depends how you define a nomad too, because I would say most of my life I was a nomad. My parents took me to live for several years in Brazil and then Indonesia, and so I after I graduated from university, I went to live for 4 years in Ukraine, and that's where I met my husband. And then since then, we've been living in different places, kind of nomadically. But it's probably a bit more nomadic when we left for Hong Kong in 2014, and we just lived in a serviced apartment. So it's not like I had my things. We all arrived with one suitcase and we planted ourselves there for 4 years. Is that a nomad? I don't know. We sold our house, we sold our car, we sold our things. We said, you know what? We just don't need these things anymore because we have a service apartment and we have everything we need here. And then when the kids left, graduated, we said, you know what? There's no reason to be in Hong Kong. We were there only for their education. So we said, let's just move around the world and create content, because that's what we've always been doing for many years, is just being online, and we like the online business model. And so since we could generate income that way, we said, let's just continue, but we don't need to stay put. So that's when we decided every 1 to 4 weeks, we were in a new country starting from about 2017, 2018, and then we traveled for about 2 years. Yeah, 2018, and then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, we were happened to be in Spain, and so since we used to live there, we said, you know what, let's just plant ourselves there a little bit. And that's when we spent about a year and a half, more or less, kind of on and off, going through Portugal as well, and because that was a border we could cross easily without in a car, and that was it. So we are now able to travel again. Again, we just have one suitcase and one carry-on. I take some space in my husband's suitcase as well. He doesn't need as many things as I do, and we continue our nomadic life as we speak. And it's like you said earlier, just the fewer things you have, the happier you can be. And it's, again, not for everybody. I met so many people who said that would be horrible. I could never do that. I like my house. I like my things. And, but and my husband, we prefer experiences and rather than actual material things. I mean, I love material things, not that I don't like it. I love to be in a nice, comfortable Airbnb or a hotel room and all that. But it's not as exciting as building those memories, those experiences, and we can share so much more. And that's what I was doing in my nomadic life pre-COVID. I was going to all of these different regions of the world and looking for older adults who were thriving. This is before I became a gerontologist. I just want to know the secrets of longevity in Cambodia or Thailand or Bhutan. And I would interview people and try to find out, kind of like what David Buettner did in the Blue Zones. You just look for people who are thriving and older and see what they're doing. And so I would report on that and create content, and that's sort of what we're coming back to now that we can be a little bit more mobile. So nomad life is for now, and maybe that will change as I get older. I don't know, but that's pretty exciting for us at the moment. And I would love to cross more paths with you as well, since you can be a little bit nomadic as you are.
Oh, definitely. And I love that. And I'm always shocked when I fly domestically here in the States at the amount of things that people carry with them. And I'm just like, my God, if I was moving house, I wouldn't take that much stuff. And
Yeah.
and like you, I mean, I lived for quite a few years. I see it as the golden years of Airbnb, where you would just turn up, and it was all just about what's the Wi-Fi password. And I would even come into
Yeah.
people's houses or those places, and there would just be so much stuff. And I would actually just like put, okay, all those, let's just put those in that cupboard, and then when we leave, we'll just put all the stuff out again. And I think it is individual. And I think I was introduced to travel very young, and so it's always been something I've enjoyed. And this anthropological lens of curiosity, of like, what you're doing when you're saying that, it's like, oh yeah, it's the anthropology of aging. And so you're being this researcher, you're having open eyes, you're having an open mind to different ways of being and seeing them, and then filtering, like, well, what could you share that works? And also, really importantly, what could you share that you really felt strongly that that doesn't work? Because how I see a lot of people
Mm.
living, I'm just like, that's batshit, that's insane, and you've accepted this very ill state of health,
Yeah.
which is the bedrock to your freedom and ability to go and live life on your terms in the ways that you want to do. So it always, the kind of health is freedom mantra is something that I first heard from a wonderful man I interviewed who was born with a lot of illnesses, and his journey back to health, actually the biggest thing for him was starting to go barefoot, like,
Ah,
which was a really beautiful thing. So for him, he said, health was his freedom in his recovery from all of his conditions. So yeah, I love that movement,
interesting.
the movement of the mind and the body and space and environments, and knowing what are we drawn to and what are we moving away from, where that wants to be. So last question on the travel, what's in your suitcase?
Ah, in my suitcase, believe it or not, I have a spa. I have like a beauty spa. I have my gym and I have my kitchen. And then there's a small space I have clothes. So if you look at my Instagram feed, you usually see me wearing the same thing like over and over again, like a revamped. And it's because I like to have my gadgets, my beauty gadgets, my special creams or whatever it is that I'm into. I like to have bands, a set of bands or BFR, blood flow restriction bands, or just little things like a TRX band, things that I can use in a Airbnb or in a hotel quite easily because I don't need a gym. Of course, my running shoes and my kitchen in terms of I bring my supplements, or I may bring that little whisk thing to make a little foam if I have a coffee in my room, or some spirulina or some powder, maybe a bit of protein powder or collagen. That's what I mean when I mean a kitchen, a spa, and a gym. And it takes a lot of space. And so when you don't have a home, I like to have those things with me. And then, I'm not so much of a fashionista. I love, looking good and wearing nice clothes, but I don't need a lot of them. And I learned to become really versatile in mixing and matching things and maybe accessories to make something look a little bit different. And so that's what in my suitcase. Sometimes if I'm really in a supplement wave right now, I'm taking 4 weeks off of all my supplements, but I'm a supplement junkie. You would think I'd be a drug mule when I go through the airport because I've got so much stuff. And sometimes I bring things for other people because you can only get it from the States or you can only get it in Hong Kong or whatever. I'm schlepping stuff back and forth, not only for myself, but sometimes other people. And so, yeah, that can take a bit of weight.
I'm sure that really confuses the customs people as well, because you present as a very healthy person and they'd be like, this is a pharmacy for like what's wrong with you?
I have not one. I don't even have aspirin. I don't have any of that. I have no paracetamol or ibuprofen or I don't carry that stuff because I never really need them. So, and I guess if I did, I could always go to a pharmacy and get it. But there may be some like anti-aging supplement I can only find somewhere else, and that's it. And I can't get it until I go back to the States or something. So, yeah, that's it. I prefer to take supplements rather than medication, and I'm always experimenting with stuff on and off, and then I go clean completely, just clear that all out and see. Because sometimes I notice when I go off of something, I'm like, hey, I think that really worked. And then you go back on it and you go, oh, wow, it really did work. Kind of like the new calm, I was getting used to just doing it without the stickers. And then I go on, I'm like, no, actually, the stickers are doing something. I don't know what it is. And that's why I like to sort of experiment and go on and off. That's my N of one, biohacker in me.
I love that you know what works for you. So I used to travel. I used to have this. I've stopped drinking caffeine now, but when I was really into my, like, must have my 2 cups of tea first thing in the morning. And
Mm.
I had this one of those little kind of water boilers, the little spiral metal things that you can just put in a cup of water, and that was
Ah,
my kind of
yes.
like, yeah, that's my the. I am that crazy lady who travels with her tea bags, and like they have to be like Barry's tea bags. It's this Irish tea that's like really strong and really, if you like black tea, Barry's tea is just an amazing tea. So I'd be like, I have to have my
Yeah.
Barry's and my little water boiler thing.
Sound like me and my matcha bowl whisk.
It's yeah, but I love it. And also, yeah, the clothes thing. And I think, you can be stylish. And I think it's I care about how I look and I enjoy that and to dress up. And at the same time, I'm like, oh yeah, that shirt that I wear for my workouts, I also wear in all my podcasts, and I also wear when I go hiking. And if I wear it with leggings and add jewelry, that's a fancy outfit in the evening.
Yeah. Yeah, and shoes. Shoes can also change your look. You just put on heels and something, and then you're like, done. It's a whole
Yeah,
other
I
outfit.
can't I can't do heels. I just can't. I'll do heels. I have one pair of heels, and I only wear them under the strict conditions that I'm sitting, and then I'm maybe in a taxi, and then I'm sitting again. Like I will sit and look pretty in heels, but like I'm not prepared to walk more than like 20 steps in heels.
Yeah, no, you
It's
can't
just
go for long. Yeah,
I think
I
it's just
agree. But they
so
look good.
they look so pretty. They look really, really pretty. But thank you, Zora. And finally, I wanted to mention that you're an incredible researcher and you walk the talk. You're really saying to people, like, know yourself and experiment. And sometimes we don't know, and it depends. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to just keep exploring that. And you have a 4-week energy reboot, which is coming up for women over 50. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I hope to launch it in November. And that will be a 4-week program where I have some videos that sent out to you each week. It's like your homework to go and read that. You will have a little bit of homework and little biohacks that you're supposed to do yourself. And then we meet at the end of the week. You ask me your questions. We figure things out for you and how to get your energy back. And I give the reasons why we can. So I give you some paths to go down to what can be the root cause of this, and then what can we do to support it and bring it back for good. And I'll have a couple of guest speakers as well talk about hormones, because a program for women over 50 without talking about hormones, and I want experts on there to be speaking about that. You're going to learn a lot about your own hormones as well, menopause and everything. So that hopefully will come out in November. You can go to the hackmyage.com website. It's on the first page. Just put your name there. There's no charge. You just want to put your name and I'll let you know as soon as it's out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your time and sharing today. And I will put all those links in the show notes. So go and check out Zora, check out Hack My Age, and follow and explore and stay curious. And thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the show. Remember to subscribe and leave a review and let me know what resonated, what you liked, what it brought up, what you're curious about, and what you would like to hear. You can go to julieangel.com and you will find a bunch of great free resources there. There is the free Move More course, your free Movement Snacks guide, and if you are interested in reclaiming and increasing your physical strength and confidence so you can get your mojo back, be brave, adventurous, and age with grace, then message me via social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, or through my website, or email me at drjulieangel@gmail.com. That's drjulieangel@gmail.com, and let's set up a call. And until the next time, enjoy, stay curious, and I'm glad you enjoyed the show.